Hey, boys and girls, weather report.
Boopity boo. Sorry.
Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022. Without God, I just don't understand why we're doing this. What's the meaning of it without God?
I don't know. To me, it's hanging out with fellow atheists who won't drop Jesus inappropriately and awkwardly into the conversation, like so many of my Southern and Texas fellow citizens like to do.
Yeah, but like in 65 million years, nobody's even going to remember that we're doing this. I
Hey,
mean,
don't sell yourself short.
without
You could
eternity.
be the one. You could be the one that whatever intelligence is out there in 65 million years will remember.
Yeah, but how about 35 trillion years? I mean, are they going to remember in 35 trillion years?
Man, I think you need to take something at night to keep you from laying awake thinking about these things.
Just think about it as if it was the beginning of the universe. Like, would thinking like that wouldn't have people or a universe.
All right, now we need to celebrate this. I'm excited for. Well, where the heck is the thing? Oh, here it is.
I'm saying if there was. Oops, sorry.
No problem. I celebrate with you, Gromania, the receiving of your computer gear. Oh, and you have to work thinking about getting home to your new computer. I can't believe that. That's torture.
Oh my God! So you're at work, Gur? You're not around? He's not around?
Yeah, it sounds like he's going to be unavailable because of that computer.
Oh my God!
He has to get it set up. But I don't know. Let's stop and reflect on. Think of the last time you had ordered a computer. I am not torturing that dog. If you hear it, she sees somebody outside. When was the last time you just sat back and thought about the time you received a computer that you were waiting for and the joy you felt? You were like a new kid at Christmas, even though you probably had to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to get the system you wanted just right.
Actually, I hate nothing. It's like the worst thing in the world. I would rather go for root canal than get a new computer and set it up. Absolutely hate that feeling.
Well, of course, sometimes people change.
Well, the thing about we used to put them together ourselves, and you got to put that processor on that little piece of goop, that they give you, and you got to seat it exactly right, and then you got to get all these cables hooked up, and oh my God, I hate it. So finally, what I did on my last computer, I bought a case that was big enough to drive my car into. It was like as big as my fucking garage. And I put the motherboard like right in the middle of that case, right? And so that I could like stand in there and plug all those things in. Like,
so the case was so big you could put your computer components in it and still have enough room to store the hay for the winter.
Yeah, and the car. Drive the car in there, and the cows. Yeah, it was great. That's the secret. You got to go to Micro Center and buy the biggest fucking case they have so that you got some room to. Otherwise, like sometimes I was in there with tweezers trying to plug in wires, trying to get everything stuffed in, all the disk drives. Like, oh my God, what a nightmare. I don't envy you, Gur. Of course, it's an Apple, so it should be pretty easy to set up. Not like Windows. And then with Windows, you remember every time you got a new computer, you had to reinstall all your fucking software? I don't know. Do they still have that shit, or do they automatically upgrade for you now? Every time you change operating system, you had to reinstall everything.
Yeah.
And like on Mac, you just plug it in, downloads it from the cloud, all your programs are running, all your stuff's there, your whole desktop set up. What the fuck, Microsoft? Oh, what a piece of shit. Anyway, only thing I like about them is their accessibility became a problem. It's like so many settings, so many things you can fucking change.
Right.
Yeah. So this guy right here, Mike Winger, what do we know about him?
He's a person that has been featured quite a bit on Pine Creek. So he's he started out as an apologist, but now he tries to stay in on the discipleship that they, is what they call it, the teaching, current Christians as his focus. He says some dumb things once in a while. That's about all I know about him.
So he looks like that guy that does evolution videos with the little stick man. I think I've seen him do dumb things on evolution. I swear he looks a lot like somebody else, or he has. But I looked at his videos and he didn't have any dumb things on evolution, so I don't really know what he is.
So, what's your interest in Mike Winger? I mean, why is
tough Bible questions atheists ask? Answered by that wasn't it. No, there was another one where I think it was on. Let's see, tough Bible questions. No, that's not it either. That's the same one. So where was it? Somewhere, I think it was on S.J. Thompson's site. They had 10 questions that atheists can't answer. Where did I run into that?
I don't know. Casey and Randy has a good observation. Is one of his things is he gets pissy when you mess with him. Like really? He would get mad at Pine Creek because Pine Creek would, his tone and the way he goes about things. Well, he would always accuse Doug from Pine Creek of mocking him or mocking Christianity. And when you give him the famous flying man illustration that Doug likes to do, he somewhat considered that mocking, I think. So okay. He's just pissed. He's a pissy, whatever.
Yeah. Anyway,
he's a parent of apologists.
Yeah.
So
there were 10 questions that atheists could not answer on. I think it's on S.J. Thomas's channel.
Okay. Well, good.
I'd like to find that, but I'll have to hunt for it.
So are we going to talk about the title of the stream?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, listen to this. This is Ray Giordano or something like that. Giordano. This guy, and he's kind of like in the middle on the left. And they're talking, okay, so what's his name? Mark Drysdale asks, why don't we find, we find like mummy, men from like 10,000 years ago in peat, and we find all of these basically mummified mammoths and things like that, and crocodiles. Why don't we find mummified dinosaurs? Right. That was the question. So anyway, this guy,
Ankylosaurus recently, it was just barely decomposed.
What did we find?
Did you hit
an Ankylosaurus? It was in great shape, comparatively speaking, considering how long it's been. But yeah,
where
he said he was barely decomposed. Right?
Did we find it?
Well, the Earth has changed a lot.
110 million years old, and it was barely decomposed.
Could it be a fossil that, where all the contents are mineralized, but the original animal, the original dinosaur, had decomposed a little and then got covered?
What do you think?
That's what I would think it would be.
Okay.
Ankylosaurus recently, it was just barely decomposed.
What did we find?
An Ankylosaurus. It was in great shape, comparatively speaking, considering how long it's been. But yeah,
where did we find it?
Right, but it wasn't soft tissue, was it? The Ankylosaurus in this instance was just well preserved. I don't think there was soft tissue associated with it.
Hey, Mark.
Well, I don't remember. Read the article though.
Okay, like fossilized and
happy that after 100 years of searching, somebody has found something that I haven't heard about, which doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but that we have these couple bones that they can hydrate and get what they think is soft tissue, but we can't find anything else. We've never found anything else, but we find mammals.
Not think.
Millions of them.
Well, they find all kinds of things. They find blood vessels. They found collagen. Gosh, what is it? Blood clots. All kinds of.
Okay, blood clots, blood vessels, collagen.
He's only listening to the creationist claims.
We found remnants of collagen, right? So we have found that. And we found remnants of DNA and proteins and a few other things, but very, very, very rare. I mean, they're hunting for this stuff and they're finding a few things here and there. But anyway, but then I think Maddox Googles it.
The things in the
bacterial slime, by the way. Just let me explain this because he's going to come out with the bacterial slime thing, I think. Because bacterial slime, when a bacterial eats a cell like and then poop the cell on. So when they try to say,
so this thing right here, but it's kind of cool. Okay, dinosaur remains that are nearly perfectly preserved. Is that the one? No, amazing dinosaur found. So it'll be this one right here. Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Ain't doing that. Ain't doing that. Where is it? Shit. Dinosaur remains that are perfectly preserved. Okay, this guy right here. So anyway, what that is that is a mineralized fossil, but it was buried rapidly under enough material that it mummified, and then it was replaced by minerals. So it's not a mummy.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I gave away your.
Yeah, you did.
I gave away your punchline.
I
feel bad about that.
Yeah, so it's 110 million years old. And the wonderful thing about this is that they preserved it in 3D. And they were actually able, I think, to find some of the keratin and enough to figure out that this thing was had a different color on top of it than it did on the bottom. There's a name for that. And some fish have it, so for camouflage. So it has a different color on the top and the bottom. But anyway, but then I thought this was pretty cool because John gets in here.
Say that these things are bacterial slime. Structures.
Okay, Mark, dude, I'm okay. I know you're on your phone. You'll be able to see this, but I've literally got. It took me like 8 seconds. This mummified dinosaur is almost perfectly preserved. Discovered.
Okay, so first of all, it took him like 8 seconds. Well, John, if you're listening, please take a little longer than that and actually read the fucking article and go out and do a little research and figure out.
Yeah, first clue is the word mummified there.
Yeah.
What's to the left and the right of the word mummified?
Quotes.
Quotes. Yeah, these are quotes. So maybe something's going on where maybe it's not so mummified. I don't know.
Okay, but John misses the point in an entirely new way here in the next few seconds.
A new way? Okay, I'm listening.
Every.com, and there's a picture of a mummified dinosaur right here. I mean,
John.
Yeah,
that ankylosaurus wasn't actually mummified. It was fossilized, but just very well preserved.
Well, I know mummified is in quotes, dude. Okay.
So he seems to get it right, but then listen.
This is my point. This is why I make so much fun of freaking YouTube atheists, and I made up the whole atheist hyper literalist disorder. Okay, because I don't actually think that there's a mummification process of the freaking dinosaurs. Okay, the Egyptians didn't go back in time and mummify freaking dinosaurs. Okay.
So does John think the only way something can get mummified is if the Egyptians are sitting there with pine pitch and?
Yeah, because there's natural mummification where you just put somebody up there in high in the mountains where it's very dry,
or bury them in a peat swamp, which is highly acidic, and prevents decay. But then, okay, so I thought, okay, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Oh yeah, he realized mummified wasn't quotes, and he realized it is fossilized, right?
Good gravy. Anyway, my point is that and this is just one of many that I found in like a very short period of time using Google, that completely just debunks the position that Mark took. So, Mark, do you retract your position?
Okay, it does not completely debunk Mark's position because this is fossilized. Mark was asking why we don't find mummified remains, right? Not fossilized remains. So John goes out and finds fossilized remains that have mummified in quotes, and somehow he thinks that debunks Mark Drysdale's position. No, it doesn't. The question is, particularly if there was a flood 6,000 years or 4,400 years ago, and things got buried with 2 kilometers of dirt on top of them, almost all of the fossil remains we find would be mummified, not fossilized. And we don't find any of those. And that's what Mark was asking. So, I mean, why is that? Why do we only find things that we know are current, recent animals, mammoth, whatever, some crocodiles and a few other things that are mummified? And we don't find any dinosaurs that are mummified. Why is that? That's what Mark is asking. And John said, are you willing to admit defeat now? Anyway.
They think the woolly mammoth was after the flood, and then the dinosaurs were before the flood.
Yeah, but what does it matter? Before the flood, it was still, 4,400 years ago. It should be, it's not going to be completely mineralized, I don't think, in 4,400 years, though it can happen fast in some environments. But in most environments, with seeping through kilometers of soil, the water seeping in very slowly, it's going to take 1 million years or so to fossilize, to completely be replaced with mineral. And we don't see that. So, no, it doesn't make any difference that it was before or after the flood. Before and after the flood is a time difference of 1 year. Doesn't make any difference. So, yeah, I hope we find a Tyrannosaurus mummy preserved in 3D like that, because this thing was buried and preserved in 3D. So it was buried in a ton of soil, compacted, ended up holding its shape, and we got a whole bunch of information about its scales and what it looks like. So it's pretty cool. So when was this? 2019, I guess. So it must be pretty recent. Yeah, I don't know about these guys. Oh my God, there's so many goodies in these after shows that John is doing. He's got so many fools on there. It's just funny as shit. It's really cool. Is this one? Nope, that's not the one. After show, another after show. Okay. Anyway, got a little goodie by Sal Cordova that I want to talk about. Might open up a discussion. I was hoping to get Jason in here.
It'd be nice to have Jason and Greer and
everything. Did we throw an invite out there?
Oh, I need to paste one now.
Yeah,
I will now paste one.
I'll pin it.
Andrew's here. He always sneaks in. Come on in, Andrew.
He's got an invite in the mail. So what do we? Okay.
Oh yeah, shouldn't we see other animals too, other than dinosaurs and
what's that?
Simple life forms before during the flood and stuff? Just because we had their idea of 2 animals on the ark doesn't mean all the animals that ever lived get on the ark. Like they don't see the modern animals deeper in the layers.
They believe all those things survived for some reason, in spite of the conditions. And then the other thing Mark was asking is, you've got water at supersonic speeds running, basically like tsunamis going at supersonic speeds. How in the fuck did anything survive anywhere?
And what about the plants and insects too? How do they have so much diversity? How do they fit that in the ark? All the plants and
they think they survived for a year in the water in the flood. That's their explanation for it, is that it all survived for a year. That all the land, basically land-based bugs somehow, and the flying insects, they flew around for a year without landing.
And then you have the problem of the marine animals. They wouldn't survive because of the mixing of fresh water and salt water.
Have you ever seen a fly around for a year? Like, bzzz, bzzz.
Yeah, they don't live very long, do they?
No, they don't live very long. The whole thing.
Reproduction.
Yeah, there's insects and bacteria and a bunch of other things that have a life cycle that's much shorter than 1 year. And yeah,
maybe a fly got stuck in some dino poop from a dino on the ark, and I don't know how to rationalize it.
Dino poop. They had a lot of dino poop on board, so that's where all the bugs were.
I don't know how to yeah, I don't know how to ad hoc it.
Yeah, because I don't think.
The thing is too, yeah. See, now it's gotten so convoluted because of the need to add ad hoc elements on your idea, which they call a theory, but it's really just kind of a idea. Is the fact that you have some creationists think about the tectonic plates going at 60 miles an hour or whatever. Then there's the heat problem, which is unresolvable at least as admitted by the folks at AIG or ICR, whoever did the, what was the name of that study? The RAID study, is that what they call it? But anyway, you have those who believe in the fast moving tectonic plates, and thus you have the heat problem that combined with the speeding up of the radiometric degrading process, which they include in that idea and that fantasy, whatever. But then you'll have creationists who don't believe the plates moved that fast, I think. So in which case there's other things you have to explain. So the ones that believe in the heat problem or admit the heat problem, that would burn up all the insects, right there. Just so many silly ad hoc measures added to their little stories of biblical floodism.
Yeah.
And I know that's not what they call it. I just call it biblical floodism because it sounds just as credible as the story they tell.
Okay, so then Sol Cordova has an idea about he's got a bee in his bonnet about evolution in medicine.
They're going to be more successful at finding cures and understanding disease because they have that attitude. The evolutionary attitude has been useless. It's been a hindrance to the advance of science, medical science, and finding cures. They got to just butt out of the discussion. They're no use, and most of the research teams out there that actually try to find cures and understand cell biology and function, they don't have any use. They hardly have any use for evolutionary biologists because they're just storytellers. They're not problem solvers.
Can I ask you a question quickly?
I think there's several key.
Okay, so I went out and did a little Google search, as we do.
Oh, isn't this what prompted you to text me? Is it okay if I reveal this text that you sent to me, Mike?
Yeah, what did I send? What did I?
You sent me yesterday about 6:30 in the evening. You sent me a message. Sal is an idiot, and this was the first thing that that I saw here that I heard when I played the link. And then of course you said Donnie is an idiot. So
okay, no, I didn't say that because I decided to be a softer, gentler, speedier.
Oh, I may be misreading it
when it becomes
my Coke leaked on my screen, so it could be a misreading.
So let it be known that Scott is the one that said that.
Okay, yeah, my mistake. I misread.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was it. Basically, and then I followed. There was one from Donnie right after. I think that it could have been any number of my. It could have. I've got about 50 bookmarks here. It could have been any one of them. Would have required me to send you that text. So anyway, so I went on and Googled, does evolutionary thinking harm medical and molecular biology research? And they love to. Let's see, where's the one by Lynch? Let's see. They love to get quotes from Lynch. So Lynch did a whole article about why medicine, Michael Lynch, why medicine should be, evolutionary cell biology. No. He did an article about why we should use more evolutionary thinking in medicine. And that's all I found is one article after another about why we should use, why medical doctors should be taught evolution. Apparently, they don't make it a big thing. And medical researchers should be taught evolution because, for one thing, if you follow the progression of a cancer in a patient, it behaves according to evolutionary principles. the cancer evolves like its own, like it's living inside of you, and it's a population of an organism. It's like a whole herd of buffalo living inside of you and evolving, over time, very rapidly. And then the other thing is that there are a whole bunch of diseases that we can look at other animals, and we can find basically remnants of diseases in other animals that apply to diseases that we have, and we can trace the common ancestor of those two diseases going backwards. And there's other things like there are things in our genetics that actually go back to fish, and the way fish cartilages and bones, they had a lot more genes for cartilage and bones than we do. And some of those things actually have an effect on things like arthritis and osteo. What is it? What is the disease where you lose your bone? I forgot. Anyway, things like that. So there's that. And then there's also the evolution of bacteria when you apply antibiotics, which is very important to medicine. So anyway, that's all I found. When I searched for, does it harm molecular biology research? Does it harm medicine? That's all I find is positive articles, except right smack in the middle, I did find one article by AIG where they were making the opposite case. So anyway, let's see. Oh God, Perry Marshall. Yeah. I got a whole immutable.
Are you trying to trigger speed
for 30 seconds?
Yeah, I wonder if maybe he just knows when you bring up Perry Marshall, it triggers you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Perry Marshall is a piece of work. Yeah, he's something.
Did you catch Nerdy Rodent's comment?
Which one?
Read it on your screen.
Funny bit of harsh. Oh, there. Morning just before I have my coffee, I like to say a little prayer that goes along with. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, now Spooky Bad Hair, I think, has the answer as well as Roy Lewis.
Yeah,
I've never seen Roy Lewis's
handle.
So welcome, Roy Lewis, and thank you for helping our failing memories.
Yeah. Anyway, so but now here's the thing. Okay, so Sell is kind of implying that. And I know what he's talking about. So he's implying that evolutionary biologists must insist that most of DNA is junk, and they don't. And because he thinks that we refuse to look at DNA that we don't know the function of, he thinks we just don't look at it. So we put blinders on when it comes to function of DNA that we know is, that is currently thought of as non-functional. And if you think of something as non-functional in DNA, that means we have not yet found a function for it. But then I got to ask Sel, where's all this new research coming from? Is this all by creationists? Are they the only ones that are looking for a function in long non-coding RNAs and they're the ones that discovered microRNAs? They're the ones that discovered epigenetics. I mean, what is this bullshit? No one is putting the blinders on when it comes to finding function in any part of the genome. The whole thing is being looked at. It's being analyzed in bioinformatics. In fact, most of the articles that I've looked at in the last couple of weeks have had new procedures to get better transcripts of the DNA in the areas that are repetitive. These repetitive areas are very hard to nail, very hard to get transcripts for because you can't tell where they are. They all look the same, so you can't break it into fragments and put them together. So, I mean, this is something that evolutionary molecular biologists are working on very hard to look at the function of that entire genome and find out exactly what each piece of it does and to look for function. So nobody is putting the blinders on just because we believe in a common ancestor. Now, why would that stop us from looking at the genome? I don't get it. That's my point. But Sel has a bee in his bonnet. It really pissed him off that Most biologists buy into common descent and evolution, and he thinks that it's somehow, God, we're so biased.
Well, yeah, but it's not that. It's just that his is such a small, tiny, little dissenting group of people that, you know, he just doesn't well, maybe he doesn't appreciate, you know, just how wide reaching the evidence for evolution is. He's always trying to find that one little factor to bring it all down.
Yeah.
You know, the silver bullet kind of theory, or fact or whatever, which is just an impossible, useless approach to take.
Yeah, this joker actually thinks that all 1 million ALUs are functional. That somehow they have something to do with the memory in our brain or something like that. That's one of the things that he's currently harping on. Oh, ALUs, they're so functional. And if you read the paper he's talking about, says, we don't know. We haven't looked at this enough. We don't know about zDNA. There are all these problems with zDNA. We don't know. Nowhere in there do they actually say, oh, all 1.1 million of them are absolutely functional. Just bullshit. Oh my God. But that's it. You know, that's just listening to 1 minute of the content from the 12 hours of live streaming that John has done in the last 3-4 days. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about that? We can't
pick out the ones that are more relevant than the others and talk about them. And if they come up with anything original, obviously look at that.
Yep. Yeah. And other than that, I got nothing. If nobody wants to come in.
Yeah, folks, there is a StreamYard link pinned to the side chat. Just click on that and come in and let's talk. Let's let the faithful storm spotters drive the show today.
Yep. Oh, 11 questions that atheists can't answer.
Is that from S.J. Robinson?
Yes.
Or Thomason, I mean.
Thomason, yeah. There it is. Okay, let's give that a listen. See where that goes.
Hello, you've reached ChristianApologist.com, and I'm S.J. Thomason, and today I'm going to present to you 11 questions that atheists cannot answer. The first question, how do you explain why the early Christian martyrs preached for decades saying they saw the risen Christ? 2, how do you explain the rise?
Cult.
Yeah, that's about a 3-year-old video, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Yep.
Rise of Christianity to between 5 and 6 million by 313 when it was finally legalized from such.
Cult spread fast.
Yeah.
Not that difficult to answer. Along with that, I think the Romans got involved and decided it was politically.
Yeah, they politically
right.
Supported it.
Control the masses by, adopting this new crazy cult.
Oh, here's a comment.
3, what power?
I bet Andrew Cummings' back hurts from carrying the weight of answers and atheism streams. Oh my God, Gur Rifter.
Very controversial. Very controversial statement there. Gurmania.
He's canceled again. We're going to cancel him again. Anyway, if you see that guy in the backstage, boot him. Don't let him in.
All right.
Yeah.
Powered inflation of the universe. 4, why?
What?
By 313 when it was finally legalized from such humble roots. 3, what powered inflation of the universe? 4.
What? What powered inflation of the universe? They ask all these cosmological questions that are.
Wouldn't that be energy?
No.
That wouldn't be energy?
No, it's just something.
Capacity to do work?
Yeah, no, we don't know why it's happening.
Yeah.
We're just reaching way back, way outside of the universe and asking ourselves, what is the structure of whatever it is that could be said to be containing the universe, and we don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
What if this universe were just the smoke and exhaust from some multiverse's inhabitants' lawnmower or something? Wouldn't that be wild?
Could be. Well, okay. Turning that around, what is her explanation for the inflation of the universe? Is God sitting there stretching the universe like a big sheet of rubber? Why is God inflating the universe?
There's no answer, but except he is able.
Yeah, why is God inflating the universe? Why would he do that? Just to fuck with us? I mean, what the fuck? So, Andrew, do you have a question? What's powering the inflation of the universe? Does that make sense to you?
Say it again.
Okay. Apparently not. What is?
No, I just want you to repeat the question so I don't straw man it.
Okay, what is powering the inflation of the universe? Powering it. S.J. Thompson thinks that God is stretching it.
Not quite sure how to respond to that.
I know.
We need to buy the degree in a book series called Cosmology. Everything you need to know.
I mean, he's talking about like the inflaton field, if anything, but like there's not really anything powering inflation. It's just a condition of the state of space-time, and
Right.
that happens to manifest itself according to certain rules as exponential expansion. So it's not like a giant, actually like a giant balloon inflating 20 times the speed of light. Like, no, that's nonsense. That's not how it works. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good thing, though. Do we know that we're answering the right question? Because do we know what S.J. Thompson believes that expansion is? You know,
right.
So
I mean, to be fair, probably at least some people don't understand what cosmic expansion is in reality.
Does anybody understand it?
Physicists.
Only God.
Yeah, they understand what's happening, but do they know the whys? You know, what is it? What's happening? Why is it happening? Do they know?
I do have a forum about it, I guess.
Yeah, the why.
Well, I mean, like in that context, the why would kind of be more like a how, would it not?
Yeah, the how. What is the how of it?
Well, the how is according to the math of general relativity. If you have a space-time that is pretty much uniformly filled with mass and energy, then you're going to get a metric, which is essentially a measuring for distances between points in space and time. So you're going to get a metric of space-time that is dynamic, that either contracts or expands. So in this case, we happen to be in a space-time that is filled with matter and energy, I think right around the critical density needed for it to expand.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Yep. In other words, it's complicated.
If you want anything deeper than that, go read a book on the math of general relativity.
Yep.
Or look up the Friedman. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. The Friedman, Lemaitre, Robertson, Walker metric. I think that's the right order. That's the space-time metric that describes basically the foundation of the Big Bang model, aka expansion.
Yep, you did get the order right.
Okay, cool.
No, Friedman, Lemaitre, Robertson, Walker. Yeah, that's what you said. Okay. So complicated, right?
Yeah.
That's our answer to that one. Okay, these are questions we can't answer. So you just answered it. What's wrong with you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, gravity is kind of complicated. I'll just name one of the complicated things about gravity. According to general relativity, you can have gravity based on mass, and that gravity itself can have gravity, which creates more gravity, etc. And so in certain conditions, you can have a gravity snowball effect, basically. So if that's not weird, I don't know what is. But that's what general relativity says in certain conditions.
That would suck.
Yeah. Well, I think actually one of those conditions might be a black hole, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I just by default I give black hole as my answer to anything I really don't know the answer to, so don't worry about it.
Yep. Next question.
That's my default answer.
Why are humans spiritual?
Because of black holes.
How would I know you're going to say that?
Okay, what does she mean by that? Why are humans spiritual?
Perfect questions, Speed. That I think you get the prize so far for the perfect question of the day.
Like, does she mean why are humans like inherently or tend to go to religions or?
Yeah, what is spiritual? What is spiritual?
Is that what she means?
Emotional, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotional, religious. I don't think anyone knows the complete answer to that, to be honest.
And that's just not a specific enough term to be useful.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably.
When do you feel like maximally spiritual? Like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, when the aliens finally landed, you got that feeling, that like emotional, holy shit, my mind is blown feeling, that sort of thing. Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's a tough question because just feeling like the universe is so big. I felt that, holding each of my grandsons. I felt that, just being out on like the perfect day with the perfect temperature and humidity, and the clouds at night were brilliant, behind the setting sun, especially if you're like at a lake or a coastline or something, and you're just looking at the sunset. Those things are awesome, and they make you think about how big and the universe is, and how much time has gone by since the beginning, and it's just amazing. Or I've had similar feelings once or twice coming out of one of my favorite barbecue restaurants after having a great lunch on one of those perfect afternoons with the right music going overhead. So,
also I think as Topdawg was alluding to, you can have spirits in all kinds of places. Like just natural forces can be attributed to spirits, and
yeah, but
that's more than our imagination triggers our emotions.
Yeah, we want there to be an explanation when there isn't necessarily one, or it's not.
Okay, but we
can get it in fiction. We can get it, our spiritual feelings in fiction plenty of times.
Right.
Okay, you two are talking about two totally different things. So, Andrew, you're talking about this idea that we attribute, okay, we don't know what causes lightning, so we think it's the Great Bear throwing down spears at us. That sort of spiritual, where we attribute things that we don't understand to some sort of a spirit, right? Whereas
I was just talking about how spiritual can mean in that sense, or it can mean in the senses you guys were talking about. It can have different meanings to different people.
Yeah,
like just our imagination creates things that might not be really what's happening. It's just we are trying to figure it out, and our brain does gymnastics, I guess, to make.
Now you're talking about what Andrew's talking about. So what we were talking about, why are humans spiritual? Because we get this flood of emotions that are like, and they're warm, nice, positive emotions. Like sometimes, okay, if a bear comes up on you, you'll get a flood of emotion that is, fear and flight and all of that stuff, and possibly anger. So that's an emotional juice squirter at the center of your brain that's basically changing the composition of your entire brain so that you get a certain feeling. And now sometimes when you come upon, you're walking in the woods and you come out onto a ledge and you're overlooking a vast valley that stretches forever, and you get this feeling of, oh my God, what is this? You get that oh my God feeling, right? Yeah. And
same
and you
thing
get another
in your imagination.
No, that's not
Some things
imagination.
could be a little quicker into processing.
You get a rush of emotion. You get a feeling from the center of you that basically overtakes your body and is like, oh my God, this is wonderful. This is a great thing.
I think what you're talking about, Speed, is like a sort of internal version of spirituality, whereas Topdawg is talking about like a more external version, right?
Yeah, but Topdawg was talking about the emotional
internal
version a few minutes ago. So
it's the imagination that triggers our emotions. That's
yeah,
all I'm
that
talking
happens
about.
too. Yeah. Yeah, your imagination can trigger this great flood of emotions, but it's definitely emotional. It's not rational. But then, if you look at the, look at lightning or volcanoes or whatever, and you think that some spirit did it, that sort of thing.
That's what I was saying about mental gymnastics.
That's a more rational version of it. Okay. And those are two different things. So why are human beings spiritual? Just the way human beings are built. It's the way our brain is built. It's the way
we survive.
Yeah, we
We're
get
the ones that survived with that trait.
We get wonderful floods of good feelings every now and then. And then
here's just a hypothesis, and I don't know if this is. Oh, go ahead, Topdawg. You go.
I was just saying, it's just being social is what makes our be able to have a better imagination, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Probably. Yeah, I was just gonna say the hypothesis that maybe having these great floods of emotion could be a stimulator or inhibitors of future actions, and maybe that's why our ancestors kind of inherited that system. Because if you feel a great flood of emotions, just to use a simplistic example, if a bear comes at you, then you're not going to want to run into a bear again, because people who didn't feel that flood of emotions and kept running into bears would probably get eaten and wouldn't pass on that trait to their offspring. So I don't know, just a hunch.
Yeah,
if you had a bear as a pet and it ran at you in love, you would not run away. Maybe. I mean, maybe a bear, but like lions do that, I guess. I've seen videos of people that hug their lions that come after them.
So every morning when we wake up, we basically get a flood of emotions that motivates us to wake up and start doing things, right? And we immediately start finding the things that we care about to do. So if you come upon a vast valley, you're walking through a dense forest, and all of a sudden you come to a ledge and you're overlooking this vast valley, right? So you get this flood of emotion that, oh my God, this I can explore that whole thing for days, for years, right? There's resources out there because we're motivated to get out of bed and do things all the time. I mean, that's a basic emotion that comes from your brainstem. That just, that little timer goes off after you've slept. You wake up, you get this rush of, I want to get up and do stuff. I'm interested in stuff. By 11 o'clock at night, you can fucking care less. You want to go to sleep. And then it starts over every day. So there's little timers in your brain that do that. So that's part of it. But this whole feeling, the fact that we are emotion driven, simply, what else would we be? We're animals. We're organisms. This is what we're feeling, right? So, I mean, that's where, and the spiritual feeling is just a feeling of peace and wonder and excitement and the feeling that everything is okay, going okay.
Right.
You're in the warm bosom of life and you're excited about it. You're moving forward. I mean, without that, we would have died a long time ago. We'd just stay in bed, right? Until we withered away and died.
That's true.
Every morning we get up and we're excited,
Okay, I'm confused. What are they talking about in side chat? Because I see colliding galaxies and what's going on
here. Emotions can be.
Is someone saying colliding galaxies don't exist?
Trees don't get up and walk away. They're grounded. Stephanie Trenton, you said they don't move, yet they do move. Hence, the Hubble Space Scope studied. Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure. TP Seeker, is that somebody new too?
I'm not sure. I don't remember
I'm
him.
familiar with TP Seeker, or haven't seen him much. Welcome, TP Seeker.
Hi, TP Seeker.
Hello.
Yeah, if you're talking to Stephanie and you don't know Stephanie, God help you.
Oh, hey, Luca.
Hi, Luca. Luca's here.
The other Luca.
Luca Menduno? How do you say that?
Not sure.
Dula Bagata.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. We're going to play another question, Scott. You're going to miss it. Hold on a minute. Okay. New question.
5. Where did consciousness come from?
Oh my God. What the fuck?
Same brain.
Yeah. I mean, where did consciousness? These are just such dumb questions.
I have a feeling like she's choosing intentionally philosophically leaning questions here.
Oh, yeah.
And they're questions we don't know fully about, such as consciousness.
Yeah.
There's lots of opinions. There's lots of evidence that people draw from to support their opinion. And there's people that are just make it up out of thin air. So that's a question that the jury's still out on, I think, in terms of definitively. But I think the answer lies in the direction of the brain and how it works and how the neural network inside our head works.
That's higher consciousness, but where it could be like amoebas and stuff, or whatever, you know, they have like sensibility of their surroundings, they act accordingly.
Yeah, where did God's consciousness
So
come?
is it like a simple consciousness be what survived? I mean, a simple neural, or not neural, but just some kind of detecting of their surroundings.
There are different levels of consciousness. Yeah.
So
once it survived, maybe had a better or a harder environment to have more selection of that have the ones that had the higher consciousness, whatever, to survive.
When somebody asks
a
a
question,
question, when somebody asks, are you done, Topdawg?
Yeah.
Okay. When somebody asks a question like that, where did consciousness come from? They're talking about consciousness with a capital C. And what they've done is they're pulling out a current cultural idea about what is going on with us and in our minds, right? And they've labeled it as consciousness. But when you actually start looking into the neuroscience of it, or even if you look into the subjectivity of what is consciousness, that's all you're going to find is things you are conscious of. You're going to find, you're going to use vision. You're going to have all of this stuff that's impinging on you as an organism, and you're going to call that consciousness. And the answer is that you are a thing that hotly focuses a lot of what's going on in the world through sensory organs and through a lot of internal processing. And so you're like this hot little ember that's basically being operated on by the world around you. And the world around you has a lot of things going on, and you have a lot of ways to pull in those things and turn them into currents inside of you. And that whole thing, you're this hot little ember spinning around and glowing. And the feeling you have of consciousness is simply that. But it is just a feeling of consciousness. There is no such thing as the noun consciousness, because your consciousness is constantly changing throughout your life from birth to death. It will never be the same twice. It's just you experiencing the world as an organism. And when they do this bullshit of consciousness with a capital C, they are automatically presupposing their conclusion that there's something amazing and special going on inside of you. There isn't. Anyway, next question. Okay, ready for a new one?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
6. How do you explain what some have called our sixth sense?
Oh, fuck.
We have a lot more than 5 senses, yeah.
I personally don't see dead
maybe.
people all the time, so I don't know what she means.
Yeah.
Main senses, I guess.
So she's asking,
Idea.
how do you explain intuition? And
that's what she means by sixth sense?
Yeah.
Oh.
We basically get some intuition about something, or we predict something's going to happen. Like I don't know if you're walking in a neighborhood, like in some inner city, and all of a sudden you get this really dreadful feeling that you're in danger. You probably are.
I will say that Topdawg is correct, though. We do have more than 5 senses.
Right.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Sense of
decor. Everyone's told that in early school years, so I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah. We have a sense of how much oxygen is in our blood. We have a sense of how much viruses we have in our body. We have a sense of our we have the sense of where all of our limbs are in space. Okay.
So the senses are almost like the old idea of element.
What's that?
Kind of.
Like the people's idea of senses are like the old idea of element.
Yeah.
We also have the sense of we're not going to fall over when we take a foot in a certain direction.
Yeah, we have a sense of balance.
Yeah.
We get input from
part of our brain.
Inner ear. We get a balance sensation.
Yep.
Proprioception is like an amazing amount of sensory information we get from proprioception, which tells you where all of your joints are, exactly where your limbs are in space.
All right.
You can feel it. So there's this whole huge bundle of nerves coming in telling you that.
I might be, well, this might sound silly, but just a few days ago, I didn't know the difference between sensation and perception. So that's cool.
The perception is something that internal, and the sensation is what actually coming from environment.
Well, right. It seems so obvious now, but like I said, a few days ago, I hadn't put much thought into it.
I haven't either. The difference. Sensation and perception? What would be the difference?
Well, sensation, kind of what Topdawg is saying. Sensation is kind of what's coming into from the environment. Perception is the organization, the interpretation of that information.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the processing of it. Yeah.
So, like I said, it seems obvious now, but I always found them synonymous before then for some reason.
Yeah, there's another one, feeling and emotion. Is it feeling versus emotion? So emotion is like the raw anger, fear, whatever. And feeling is the processed emotion where it will give you a feeling. Basically, you add some cognitive elements to it, and you get a feeling.
Because I can feel pain, but pain isn't an emotion.
Right.
What about hunches? Are those a feeling?
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, a feeling would be a processed emotion because, okay, if you get an emotion, like you get this like little bit of fear, right? And it'll go into your cortex and you'll start thinking, oh my God, I'm dying, or, I didn't pay that bill, or there's a mountain is going to fall on me or something like that. So you process it and it becomes a feeling, and then it goes back down into your limbic system. So it makes a whole cycle, a round trip. It goes back down into your limbic system. It triggers more fear, and the fear triggers more thinking, and the thinking triggers more fear. And so you have this buildup loop, and that's what people with anxiety problems run into. So a feeling is more of a process.
Paranoia.
And that's according to Joseph Ledoux, who's somebody who researches this sort of thing and written a bunch of books on it. He makes that distinction, and it took a while to unwind that because people use that interchangeably. They'll call an emotion something like something processed, like being in love with somebody. But then there's the raw feeling of love, and then there's the processed feeling of being in love with somebody. That sort of thing.
Like
Speaking
first
of
sight.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying a quick thing. First sight, feeling of love, whatever.
Yeah, but they actually know what the circuitry is that makes that cycle. That causes where fear causes thinking, causes more fear, causes more thinking, and it goes around and around in a loop, and you can build yourself into a frenzy.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate, etc.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, like they used to tell you, if you're angry, go out and take a punching bag and start, kicking it and punching it. That actually makes you more angry. I've done that.
Well, I would like. Hold on. I would like to add that that if you find a way, if you can actually find a way to focus that anger, it doesn't. It's like I know what you're talking about, and what you're talking about is unfocused anger. I mean, like unfocused energy. Yes.
Yeah, you can build it up by doing angry things. If you've ever gotten really mad at somebody and you're just sitting there and you're just you're cogitating, and then all of a sudden you start yelling, and then as soon as you start yelling, you can't stop yelling. It goes on and on and on. You just
I don't know. I don't know if you ever heard of scream therapy. Yes, that's a thing. Look it up.
Yeah, the Primal Scream, that was a big hit back in the 70s and early 80s.
Yep, back in the 70s and 80s is where it should stay.
Well, let me tell you. Well, no, let me tell you about my experience with that, because there were. I think I said this already, but fuck it, I'll say it again. There were times when I was home alone, and I just felt like screaming, and then after I was done, I felt so much better. You know what I mean? Me personally, I know it probably doesn't work on everyone, which okay, whatever. But for me, it was just like, oh wow, that shit, that felt so much better just to let everything out.
Well, I mean, we cry our hearts out, and we feel a lot better afterwards too. So it's not like we just keep being sad.
And I'm with Nerdy Rodent. Any kind of screaming kind of reaction I've ever had has just really hurt my throat, so I don't.
Well, obviously, obviously.
Deep breathing can be helping too.
Deep breathing, doing shadow boxing, because you're focusing that anger on a single point. You know what I mean?
As long as you don't lose your balance or go like over the limit and other things, that might help.
Protect your hands.
Just don't be just don't be like chaos, just don't be like chaos theory and put a picture of drag, attach a picture of drag to your punching bag.
Yeah, and there's also the phenomenon in relationships where a guy gets angry and puts his fist through the wall, which if that ever happens, you probably just need to go into therapy. But that's taken the punching reaction a little too far. You want to be in a controlled environment. When you do the punch or shadow boxing of anger or whatever.
Last time I did that, the last time I did that, I was in the laundry room. And we have two walls that are made of drywall, and we have two walls that are made of cinder block. And I made the mistake.
You punched a hole.
I didn't actually successfully punch a hole in the wall, but I hit the cinder block. And that wasn't
a guy is punching a punching back, and he hears a sound behind him. Suddenly punches a bird. Yeah, that would be both funny and sad.
Okay, Andrew, start shadow punching.
Oh.
Wow, shadow boxing.
I don't quite know what that is. What is shadow punching?
I mean, all you basically do is stand. What you basically do is stand there and punch in the air.
Oh.
Like, you know what I mean? You just throw punches.
I feel like I do that sometimes, but okay.
It's like karate.
I love all of you.
Love you too, man.
Yes. Scott, I love you. Andrew, you as well. Topdawg, you. And Speed. Because I forget whether you're over 18 or not. Sorry.
I think you're 18, but I don't remember because the pandemic.
Right? I was like, wait.
Please do not destroy your shoulders and elbows.
Oh my God, Bob's best file. What the fuck?
Okay, I will not. Bob's best. That is creepy as fuck, sir.
Well, thank you for that.
So you've gotten enough.
It's just a generous thought, wishing us to not harm ourselves in a slow and degrading way like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what happens when you shadow box.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a good thought.
Who is this? I recognize the voice, but
it's Cerberus. I just didn't change it. When I get into a room and the LARP's getting real heavy, I play act someone who thinks we're in a simulation and Bob is our creator.
I apologize. I thought you were Jay or someone like that.
How dare you?
And I am his best file on his computer. That upon my death will be saved to the Holy C drive.
What the fuck?
Oh my gosh, that just gave me an idea for like a what if like writing a fiction or something.
No.
Oh.
Do you all turn into that avatar?
I said no, Topdawg.
I was just saying, what if someone wrote a fiction where, like, instead of going to like a spiritual heaven, people started following a certain religion, started going into like a cybernetic heaven where the rules are all bent, kind of like the Matrix or something like that. I don't know.
Wasn't that the part of the plot of at least the first season of oh come on, Westworld?
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Well, at least not. It wasn't for humans, I don't think. But the sentient robots, they all got to go to a cyber heaven.
I'm just saying, like a fully fleshed out story like that would be interesting.
Yeah. I'm fleshing mine out pretty good. It's like it's like everyone after they die, if they're good boys, they go to the C drive. They get saved and put into another program. That's like heaven. Yeah. And if you're a bad boy, you go in the recycle bin and then get defragmented and shredded. Right? They just randomize your bits. And then because I'm Bob's best file. Because I'm Bob's best file, when the computer finally breaks down, I will be put onto a thumb drive.
Oh wow, cool.
I love these I don't know if you call them analogies, but I just love this because I remember, there wasn't there, didn't Sucker Count create an entire religion over a sandwich?
What?
Yeah. It wasn't super fleshed out, but yeah. I've been going into like Praise's chat. I don't think they know what I'm doing, but I'm just saying, patch update alert. Bob has decided to allow Yahweh to continue to exist, but heaven is going to be temporarily out of order. So don't die in the meantime.
Oh my god, that is the best troll. That is the best way to troll Christians.
Is your Ugandan Knuckles wearing a toga?
Yeah, and you can't really see it, but he has like a halo, like above his head. Right?
Oh.
He's supposed to kind of look like Jesus.
Oh, okay.
It's just the picture's too small. And
why did I ask?
Do I look like I need your power? And I love that. I love that from the.
Moving on.
No.
Are we done with the questions? Right?
Nope.
Yeah, are there any more questions?
Let's try a question.
There's 10 questions, I think.
Cerberus is here. I'm sure he'll find it interesting.
And I lost them. Where are they? Oh,
well.
No, there's 11 questions. Oh my God. We'll try another one.
7. How did the Earth overcome what MIT and Stanford physicists call statistically miraculous odds to have habitable conditions?
God.
Isn't that the same thing as fine tuning?
Yeah.
You just did.
I love when they mention a couple of prestigious universities, before they. Yeah. Oh yeah, somebody over there said this, therefore, yeah. Fine tuning.
It's just the whole problem with this argument is we only have a sample size of one, and that's Earth. So beyond that, you can't make any generalized statements.
Nor can you figure out what the probabilities actually are.
Right.
You
That's
gotta
the reason
know
why they think it's God, because it's only one sample.
I know one probability, and that is if there's 100% chance that the Earth existed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. Yeah, it's 100% chance that I'm here right now doing the weather report, sipping on coffee from a Hello Kitty cup.
Yeah, so it's not astronomical odds unless you're saying in the positive.
Yeah.
Why do I have a feeling that's not how probability works? I may be
No,
wrong.
it really is. If it probability is about telling the future. So if it's happened in the past, you'd already know.
Yeah, it's already
100%.
I don't know.
So what's the
I have
point
a
of all the
gut
other-
reaction to that, but okay.
Okay, but think about it. Think about it, Andrew. Okay,
I know. I'm just saying, deep down in the very depths of my soul, I'm finding some kind of something wrong with it kind of feeling. But whatever.
Well,
don't put much into it.
Probability is
point?
a little. Okay, probability is a little piece of mathematics where we come up with a number between 0 and 1. Okay, and we assign it. So it's this characteristic function, basically. It's what is that called? Oh, is that sigma algebra? Sigma algebra, right? So the entire world's on this line of 0 to 1 probability. So you got to figure out, how probable something is, and to do that, you have to know a lot about the sample size, the universe. Like dice, we know that it's going to be like either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, right? So that we know, but we don't know what the probabilities of abiogenesis are at all, because we don't know enough about it. We don't have the numbers. We don't have the information. You got to have information in order to calculate probabilities.
You don't know, but Bob knows. Bob knows everything.
Bob knows everything, right?
So what's the answer, Bob?
Well, wait, hold on. Shouldn't you rename yourself to Bob's favorite file?
No, because I'm his best file. I'm not his favorite.
Oh, well, I guess.
The thing is, if you're any place in your life and you start calculating the probabilities of what it would take for you to be there, if you calculated all of the information around you, that would yield that would put you in exactly this position with this many skin cells and all of that. I mean, it's immense. You would come up with an astronomical probability that made no sense, but that isn't what you do with probability.
You make no sense, Speed.
You use probability to try to figure out the probability of something happening based on what we know about the something happening. And you can't do that with like a protein that just happened to be, in all of the vertebrates, right? You got a protein that's 1,000 acids long.
Sorry, my dog yawned.
It was so adorable.
I know, he makes adorable sounds.
But do you understand how silly it is to talk about those kind of probabilities when we know nothing about the conditions?
Yeah.
And you're talking about like the probabilities of okay, when you talk about probability, you're looking at causation. You're looking at A causes B. Well, if we're looking back 4.5 billion years ago, how many A's were there causing this B that we have right now? And what does a network of causation look like going that far back? And it just drives me crazy when they are so certain of themselves.
It's so funny how each of these questions is like 10 seconds, and we're going in 5 minutes for each of them.
Yep. Okay, we're on number 8. Huh? What?
You know what? No, Speed. You're so sure abiogenesis is true. How do you know about it? How do you know abiogenesis is true?
It's highly probable that Midnight is going to drop out of that stream about.
My!
Not really about what's true. It's about what is most likely.
Yeah.
You're a tyrant.
Midnight was there and then just disappeared. I don't know where he went.
Predicted that.
I mean, in the strictest sense, the statement, there was once no life and then there was life on Earth, is necessarily or true in the truest sense, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, the details of that, though, you can argue about. But I don't think anyone in the strict sense will say that abiogenesis in that context is false.
Yeah, what you can't do is take an organism that exists today, like a frog, take it apart, look at all the proteins, and ask what is the probability that protein in that frog happened, right? I mean, what is the fucking probability that frog got born at all? They look at that as a natural process, that the frog got born. But if you were to calculate the probabilities of one particular frog being that frog where he is, and go back in time to the point where he was born 2 weeks ago, you would end up with this string of numbers that was larger than, the universe to determine the probability of the frog being there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So what is the probability of you kicking me out?
It just increased with putting the idea in his head.
Pretty high.
How is it that came about? That's odd.
I don't know. Okay, next question. What is the next question?
8. Why does humanity cherish humility and honesty over pride and deceit?
Well, number one, certain members of humanity do actually value deceit. It's a story from a Christian missiology class I took once, where they showed us a documentary about this one tribe that basically they thought more of Judas Iscariot than they did Jesus. And it's because this particular it wasn't just one tribe, it was like 2 tribes. They cherished cleverness and ruthlessness above being self-effacing and being humble and all those other values and cooperation. So it's not always true.
If you ask me, Judas Iscariot was only following orders. If you go by the Gospel of Judas.
Yeah, if you go by Dracula the movie, he became a vampire.
Exactly. Yeah, it depends on whose narratives you choose, and you really do kind of have to paint Judas Iscariot as the bad guy in the story, because in one telling of the devil got into Judas Iscariot, and then he went and did it. So, and then in another. Well, never mind. But anyway, it's just values. Are there universal values? There may be. And it's easy enough to find highly shared values to create a society. But we can't assume such highfalutin ideas are the same everywhere.
Okay, so if you got a neighbor and the neighbor's constantly trying to deceive you and trick you and steal your stuff, right? You're going to kind of like value him not doing that for obvious reasons. So she's asking some really idiotic questions about living in societies and being a social animal. And she's also asking, why are humans like humans? I mean, why are squirrels this running around in tree branches kind of things, right?
Human fusion chromosomal 2, I guess. I don't know.
It's the same thing as asking why we value things. We value things because that's our nature. I mean, it's who the fuck we are. It's what we are, and it's how we get along, and it's how we get along easiest. I mean, if I were to go ahead.
I don't think, in a strict sense, science is equipped to deal with questions of value and morality and stuff like that.
Oh, they are. They are. Science very much can deal with morality. I mean, we can understand scientifically, neurologically, why we value the things we value, and we need to.
Well, I mean, in the sense, like, science can't tell you this is good, this is bad. It can tell you why we think that is, though.
I think science can also help us critique our values. For instance, when you hear people say, it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. There are no homosexuals in the jungle or whatever. We can use science to say, well, that's not true. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon in the wild. Why not among humans? And that really helps change the focus of the discussion. So while it may not be able to pass judgment on our values and tell us what our values should be, it can certainly act as a fact checker on what we happen to say about our values.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense can tell you why we need to be the kind of person that doesn't go around punching all the other people in the face, right? because eventually you're gonna get hurt. It's a bad thing. I mean, we know that. These are real simple things about organisms that exist in communities. I mean, it
Wait,
just
did you
isn't
say
that-
these were 11 questions for atheists?
Yeah. Yep.
Why are what? Wait,
I don't know. I think deceitful people even value honesty. They just value it. Other people having it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Like deceit is something you learn real early. As soon as you learn that mom can't really tell what I'm thinking. I mean, you figure that out when I'm around 2-3 years old. It's like, okay, mom can't read my mind. I could deceive somebody,
Yeah, no, it wasn't me. A scary man broke in and ate all the cookies.
Exactly. Yeah. God, I saw this wonderful video of this little boy, and he's got chocolate all over his face, and like, did you eat the cake? No. Did you eat? Did you? Come on, now. Did you eat the cake? No, I didn't eat the cake. It's fucking precious. And he had the cake smeared all over his face.
And his hands, probably.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. But he's a good liar. Next questions. I think the next couple are pretty similar.
9. Why do almost all feel compelled to do what's right by helping neighbors?
Oh, we just talked about that.
Why is there a norm of reciprocity? 10.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I didn't want it to go into the next question. Did anybody have anything they wanted to comment on that one?
No, is that the norm of reciprocity?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I kind of missed it. Was it the norm of reciprocity?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it normal to want to do good things for your neighbors?
However, once you say, why isn't it normal for chimpanzees to do good things for their neighbors, or monkeys to do good, because they do it as well. They have a sense of reciprocity.
And dogs do too.
So that's an easy question. It happens in nature.
Altruism is pretty common in nature.
I don't know. Bob told me I should be nice to my neighbors because I should call them emergency food.
What?
Yeah. There you go. Emergency food.
I'm not sure why I should call them emergency food, but that's what I was informed.
Yeah. I was wondering about cannibalism. Why is it the norm to have sex with our own species, but we can't eat our own species? We have to eat other species.
Because eventually you're not going to be right.
We don't get the vitamins or something. We don't get the right proteins or something in the diet.
Yeah, we do. We do. It's just there are certain parts of the body. Well, I mean, other than we share a lot of diseases, right? There are certain parts of the body where you can actually like OD on vitamins, for example.
Well, that's interesting.
I mean, like cannibalism is pretty common in, well, at least certain animal species. So I guess that is a good question. Why isn't it as common in humans?
We know that it's common in human species as well as a norm. I can't remember the Maori, Maouri.
Oh yeah, it's common in chimps too, I think.
Yeah, and so they will, at least they used to have a norm of like as a funeral custom, they would eat parts of their beloved dead as a way of internalizing them and keeping them close with you. Also, there's the practice of in various times of the past of consuming parts of your enemy. Because it gives them honor, because you want the strength and the acumen and the
or eating the brains of a fallen general so that you'll gain his wisdom.
Exactly. Of course, cannibalism is 30 or 40 years down the line is dangerous for your health because of prions. Just like the mad cow disease, you get a human version of it. But the reason why we don't see native or what's the word, Aboriginal people of different islands and whatever still doing that is because of British imperialism. They decided, no, you're not going to do that, and they don't do it anymore. But it's a common thing, and if left to our own devices, certain percentage of people would be like that.
So they got like crickets or something, like their legs or they were like crippled or whatever after eating the brains of others. Yeah.
Well, no,
Okay, anyway,
I've seen
I
back in the
have
day
to
before they
make
stopped
an
them.
announcement. This channel does not condone cannibalism.
No.
Thank you for reminding everybody of that.
Number two, isn't it interesting how I segued into cannibalism from? Well, somebody did. I think it was the comment that did it.
You know,
Because you, Cerberus, you did it.
Right. I was just gonna say I find the phrase. I think I found my new favorite phrase. Let's put it like that, and that is, "I love you, so I shall turn you into poop."
That's just only the parts that you can't consume.
I like fences, and I build them for my neighbor, but my neighbor don't like fences, so he takes them down. Now we are at war.
Well, there we go.
There you
Stephanie
go.
Trenton, that is actually pretty
That
accurate.
is pretty fucking brilliant. Actually.
And I just want to say about the cannibalism, I would be against it globally simply because it's just a bad thing to have happen to you, you know, to get that prion disease or whatever. And most people don't want to be eaten. So let's do that reciprocity and not eat each other, folks. Just go to a good barbecue restaurant, man. You would never think about eating another human until you've had some of that wonderful pulled pork.
Yeah, and it probably doesn't really taste like chicken. So. Anyway, this channel does not condone cannibalism.
No cannibalism here.
I decorated my neighbor's yard, but he didn't like spray paint and glitter.
So, Scott, you were saying that eating other animals are okay, but we're related to them too. So,
well, that's true. That gets in that whole species thing, you know, speciesism thing about should you eat meat, but I'm not going to weigh in on that because obviously I've been eating pulled pork and barbecue ribs for just so long. It's so good. Goodbye. I'm going there now.
I got a
some
real
people
question.
eat horses or sheep and goats.
I got an actual. Yeah, I got a real. And this is not really a joke. Really. So you guys remember those two children that got their DNA like partially rewritten by that Chinese scientist a few years ago?
Yep.
Does that make them technically not human? Because they're not genetically related to any other human.
Yeah, that would.
Okay, so can they eat people?
I guess so. I don't know.
Or can we eat them?
Yeah, we can eat them.
I feel like I've seen a movie about that, but I can't figure out the title.
Do you happen to know where they live?
I'd be in China somewhere.
Okay. Anyway, this equivocation on being related and ancestors. I mean, we have a common way we think of being related. I don't think of myself as being related to any of you guys. None of you are my cousins. If you go beyond cousins, you're no longer related. Okay. And if you go way the hell back, ancestry gets kind of fuzzy too, you know, because you got a lot of fucking ancestors back there. I mean, eventually you're going to subsume the entire human race and come back up and then say, oh, I'm related to this and that. So, I mean, this whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense. And the other thing about bananas being related to bananas, when you get back to the separation between plants and animals and eukaryotic cells, that whole business about a common ancestor, I think, falls apart. And it falls apart because of horizontal gene transfer, ingestion, all of the different kinds of basically ways of mixing and matching DNA among populations. And to say strictly that we have a common ancestor with bananas, I don't think is a good idea. And the only people that are going to do that is the fucking creationists, right?
Well, I mean, even if you exclude stuff like that, if the conditions were right to only get one type, who knows how many ways you could have genetic material, right?
Yeah.
But if the environment was correct for only one way to do genetic material, you could have multiple abiogenesis, right?
Yeah.
All kind of shoved together, and they would all look really similar. I don't think you could tell the difference probably.
If I can weigh on this, I think the question is not whether they share a common ancestry, but whether it is reasonable to represent that common ancestry as a bifurcating tree all the way down, which obviously it is not. I don't think that necessitates that universal common ancestry isn't a thing.
And along with that, common ancestry is never from one individual; it's always from a population.
Right.
And it kind of changes and it gets mixed up. And what would happen if a virus jumped into some germline in my ancestors, but not in yours? Okay, would that make us strictly related? I don't know. Because, and that thing ends up multiplying and, getting a number of copies. So we would have a very big difference. I mean, there's a lot of differences in these repeating transposons between people within species, or between animals or organisms within species. There are a lot of differences. And that's one of the things with primates. They have all of these repeated copies of satellite DNA and transposons that in some lines have just gone nuts, and they've really started to multiply. But I don't know. It just makes the whole idea. But when they say relative or ancestor, and they talk about bananas and whales and stuff like that, they mean they're using an emotional argument. They're making you think about one thing, like my cousins, and then think about a banana, and then
they're making it sound absurd.
Making it sound stupid, right?
Yeah.
And Kent Hovind is absolutely, I mean, that is his whole shtick, right? He's done it
again. Just because something sounds stupid doesn't necessarily mean that it's false.
Yeah, it's true.
So what about the future when we're so far away from each other's lineage? I mean, not us individually, but our populations. Would they be okay with eating each other then that way?
Yeah, like when we colonize Mars, are we still going to be the same species?
Yeah.
If we diverge enough, and there's enough isolation, not a lot of rockets coming in and out of Mars ports or whatever, then we could.
I get the suspicion. Yeah, I get the suspicion far enough into the future. We'll be designing ourselves, and the idea of what human is going to be a little broader and more vague than it is right now.
That's also in the future. Maybe we'll become more vegan.
You say that, but we'll create the bacon tree. Okay.
I think if we find life on other planets,
oh my god, a bacon tree.
If we find life on other planets, I'm almost certain that we're not going to be able to eat them, and they're not going to have the right biochemicals. It's going to be different. Their nucleic acids are going to be different. Which amino acids they picked are going to be different.
Well, see, now I just don't care if we ever get it far into space, or if we ever colonize Mars. I just want a bacon tree in my future.
Let's see. I actually wonder about that, because life is runaway chemistry, and chemistry follows strict rules. I don't know. I'm not so sure there's actually that many different ways to make this happen.
There's a lot of different amino acids that could have ended up being.
That is a fascinating question.
How many we're trying to find alien life in the first place, and now you want to eat them out of existence.
What I'm trying to get at is, will all the other options lead anywhere?
Yeah, well, there might be just one way for it to happen, but I think that's highly unlikely looking at how organic molecules are, the complexity of organic molecules. And that's the other thing that's kind of driving me crazy with abiogenesis research, is we're not looking at other amino acids. We're not looking at, we're thinking too much in terms of homochirality. And homochirality is not strictly true for all amino acids. When you look across all the insects and all the different animals, there are some D-amino acids basically in some of those things. There are some odd nucleic acids. There's a whole lot of variation, and it's pretty obvious that we settled down to one line of probably because we could eat each other, because we kept crossing over and consuming each other. We ended up with just one kind of thing. There's a lot of other possibilities, particularly for amino acids. There's just hundreds and hundreds of different candidates.
Can you quickly fill me in? What exactly is chirality again?
If you have a stereoactive center like a carbon atom that has 4 different groups coming out of it, there are ways for it to be a mirror image. So it's like that mirror image thing where there's no way to turn one into another. Like, well, your left hand and your right hand, there's no way to bend your left hand into your right hand, right?
Right.
It's a mirror image. So that's what it's like. So DNL is like that. And amino acids, they're all one way. And the reason for that is because D amino acids.
This is the whole L versus D amino acids, right?
Right. Yeah. And D amino acids kind of fuck up the helices. So proteins don't fold right if you have that other chirality, if you have the Ds. It doesn't form stable alpha helices for some reason, just the way they're arranged. So the stable ones, the ones that gave us the most variety, are the L's, and then that's what we ended up with.
Well, like, do we necessarily know that life couldn't have begun with D amino acids?
They wouldn't have created the right protein, the right complexity in protein folds with the other way. So they wouldn't have worked overall. They wouldn't have given us the range of enzymatic activity that we have, basically, because they don't fold up as well. They don't, and why that is, I can't imagine, because 3D shit fucks my brain up. It's hard. The stereochemistry has always been, it's like I always try to gloss over that part as fast as I can because I don't want to think about it. It hurts my mind. I don't know. Anyway, but there's a reason why the D amino acids do not fold well into helices and beta sheets and all that. So I think it didn't give us enough, the right complexity, and eventually they fell out. But there are some insects and bacteria that still produce those odd amino acids, with the other chirality. So, and when you look at it, but back then a lot of all of that was present. There was this huge mix of biochemicals, and then in the first billion years, I think it got sorted out. And the only reason we have the amino acids we have is because we have this certain set of genes. There's about 50 of them. For aminoacyl tRNA transferases or synthetases, there are about 50 genes that we have that have been conserved, and those 50 genes determine which amino acids get used. If we had different genes, it would be a different kind of amino acid. Right. There'd be a different codon, basically, or a different coding from going from RNA to proteins would be different if we had different. So that's why the code is there, because those genes are there.
Right. Yeah. Because that's a strong piece of evidence for universal common ancestry, because we didn't have to have those 20 specific amino acids. We could have had different ones. So why life, or almost all life, shares those 20 or so amino acids?
Yeah, I think if you went back in that first billion years, you would find a lot of variation, that there would be other codons. There'd be a lot more variation in biochemistry in that first billion years. And I think eventually it sorted itself out. And one of the reasons it sorted itself out is because we are so interdependent and so promiscuous. There's so much crossing over going on.
Right. Sort of. Yeah. And I don't know if this is actually the consensus right now, but like my idea is it was a combination of both kind of the frozen accident idea of common ancestry and the fact that it was stable enough and it was pretty good at what it did, so it didn't need to really change anything.
Yeah.
And it could just be built on from there to make it even more complex.
Yeah, I've been thinking a little bit about that early RNA codons, the early amino acid synthesis with like a strand of RNA. And the thing about RNA is it co-folds with other RNAs or with itself. So it'll fold up into all these shapes. And the part that reads the codon is like there's three nucleotides, and they are complementary to what it's reading, right? And they kind of stick out in a bulge at the bottom. But then when you think about how this formed to begin with, there could have been like a minimal set of amino acids, like maybe 12, or like what we're using in our models are 15 amino acids, the 15 most common ones. And it could have been just 2 codons, or there's another hypothesis that starts with 4 codons, and eventually it got trimmed down to 3. And it's just, but it's a mind-numbing mathematics and modeling to get at what was going on 3 billion years ago. But it's interesting. What I'm trying to think is the minimal protein synthesis. What would be the minimal RNAs that would synthesize a protein based on an RNA strand?
The only way we're going to figure out what happened 3 billion years ago.
Not in 15 minutes, because we got to shoot her in the head, and we got to get to that. We got to get to the next question.
Next question.
I think we got 2 to go.
What is our greater purpose? And 11, why is there evil in the world? Thank you.
Yeah. Because of Trump.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what was so she did 9 and 10 all at once. What was 9 again?
I don't know. What are you asking me?
9, why do almost all feel compelled to do what's right by helping neighbors?
Okay.
Why is there a norm of reciprocity? 10, what is our greater purpose? And 11,
what the fuck do you mean by greater purpose?
Your destiny.
My destiny.
It doesn't have to be a
greater
destiny.
purpose.
How is that a question?
She's kind of assuming a lot into that question.
Hey, just about every naturalist I know believes in destiny. Okay.
Yeah. Greater purpose.
They just don't call it destiny.
So I think greater purpose is made of a lot of smaller purposes. And my smaller purposes right now is to shoot this in the head and go have something to eat. How about you guys? Yeah.
I think my new greater purpose is to make sure mankind invents the bacon tree.
Bacon
tree? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would plant so many of those fucking things in my yard.
But they have to live in space too.
But
we're doing that for nerdy rodents.
I want it to be traumatic for vegans still, so whenever you pick a piece of bacon, it has to scream in agony.
It has to squeal. Yeah, no, it has to squeal like a piggy.
Yeah.
Squeal like a piggy. Yeah, we can do that.
It's a squealing, a squealing bacon tree in space.
There you go.
What is wrong with you guys?
That's perfect, because you can use it to filter out the carbon from the air, right? Just purify the oxygen to breathe.
Well, that would piss vegans off. We created this like artificial tree that produced bacon, and then as a side effect of the genetics, it squealed every time you pulled a piece.
Yeah, right.
That would be bad. Anyway,
squealing causing from the gas expanding, not from an actual pain receptors to the vocal cords.
Hell yeah. I want to shoot her in the head. What do you think, guys?
Okay.
We're gonna shoot her.
Okay, but in the back of the head, so mommy can look at our face.
Exactly. Okay, boys and girls, look at the flowers. I'm gonna shoot her in the head. This one.